On item 1, the board took action to approve a settlement agreement to resolve a dispute concerning a special education matter. Other than that, no other action was taken. Before we get started, let me read a quick statement. In compliance with public health orders, the district requires masks be worn during the board meeting. If, as at recent meetings, we have individuals who refuse to wear masks, they will be asked to leave the meeting. If they refuse to do so, they will be considered to be willfully interrupting the meeting and disrupting the ability of the school board to conduct its meeting in an orderly manner. This will be addressed by any means permitted under the Ralph M. Brown Act, including clearing the room of all members of the public except members of the press and continuing the meeting, or adjourning the meeting to another room or site. The board may then readmit individuals not responsible for disrupting the meeting, or admit them one at a time for the limited purpose of making public comment, following our usual presentation guidelines. Thank you for attending this evening. We apologize for the inconvenience. So, we've been here before, and seeing that there are members of the community who are unmasked in our room, I'll ask one time that you choose to mask or step out and monitor the progress of the meeting from the on our YouTube channel. And I really would appreciate it if you would do that. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you at the time that we have set aside for that. And we want to hear what everybody has to say. But if you cannot follow the rules and the guidelines that we have in place to make sure that this is a positive and orderly meeting, then we have no choice but to do what we've done several other times over the last several months, which is hold our meeting in the back so that the community can see what we're doing and hear what we're doing on YouTube and, you know, be able to participate that way. So I will ask you one more time to please put on a mask. Okay. What I will do, since it's obvious that we're going to be in the back room, is be clear to those of you who really do want to participate. If you want to participate, as we go throughout our agenda, there are portions of the meeting after every agenda item where you can provide your public comment, and we will open the door and provide that opportunity to you after each item. There is also our public comment section where we'll open the door, and anybody here who would like to provide a public comment on an item not on the agenda is welcome to do so along with our normal processes. So I try to make that very clear because in previous meetings we have not had anybody come in and want to say anything, which is very disappointing to me. You must wear a mask if you're going to come in and say something. The other option is there are comment cards or question cards out on the table in the foyer. And if you would rather write your comment or question down and hand it to the young man at the end of the table here who will be collecting things as we go throughout the meeting so that those can be read at those times, we're happy to do that as well. So we hope you stay. We hope you put a mask on. We hope you come in and tell us what you're thinking. But we've got people that just don't want to see us sit out here and have a meeting in a comfortable place. So we will adjourn for now before we start the meeting.
Friendly community of Richmond. It's over here, guys. Somebody in school. I have to go stand in the Right. He was there. There you go. There's a church. I was laying on. What are we doing this right now? Are we on? Oh, yeah?
I'm trying to make sure you know that you're on.
We're on. Okay. All right. Before I start, I'll note that we are convening the meeting in the conference room due to disruption of the normal meeting venue. So, Brown Act, we are doing this even though we can't stand it. So I will call to order the regular meeting of the Sierra Sands Board of Education. We will start with the pledge led by flag and back.
Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, then we will now have a moment of silence. Thank you. Item 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
Mr. President, I'd like to add special concurrent items 2.1 and 3.1 to be heard after item 12.
So noted. Yeah, thank you. See, item 2, approval of minutes of the regular and special meetings of January 20th, 2022. Any changes? Like those are good to go. Item 3, programs and presentations. Number 1 is building schools for tomorrow committee presentation. Dr. Ostash.
Mr. President, I will take that one. Well, it's my honor this evening to see a lot of the committee members. We had an incredible synergy with folks who represent all facets of the community come together. We met for 4 successive weeks and Tuesday evenings. And I'd like to just read a little preamble. I won't read the report, but I'll read the preamble because I think it's really informative. We came together at the invitation, we meaning the committee, at the invitation of the Sierra Sands Unified School District to serve as the Building Schools for Tomorrow Committee. Over the course of 4 meetings held on Tuesday evenings from January 25 to February 15, topics covered were district facilities, school funding, school vision, public information research, which were our survey results, and our consensus. Participants live and work in our community, many who are or were at one time parents, teachers, and staff. Collectively, we dedicated over 300 hours to learning about classroom and facilities needs and coming to consensus over these important issues. The report, which we will hand to board members this evening, describes how the committee came together, what was learned, what was discussed, and the consensus reached from our efforts. And I do want to thank all of those who are here and those who couldn't be here this evening for all of the incredible work that was done, the engagement, the genuine interest in just learning all of the complexities of school finance and what our needs are in the district. And we learned that this is a number that came together 2 years ago, so we know it's escalated since then, but we haven't identified $180 million in long-term facilities needs. And we have no way of addressing all of them at once, but together as a committee, there's consensus that there's a need to look at ways to financing facilities and, taking one bite at a time and doing what's most important first. Before I hand these out, I'd like to just ask, because one of the points of the invitation was that if committee members had an inclination to offer any remarks, I would invite that to happen. And so It's not an expectation, but I just wanted to offer that if there are any members here who are in the room, you are welcome to make a remark or a comment about the process. So I'll pause for a second, see if that's an interest by anyone. Mr. Alexander?
So where should they stand or sit to make sure we can?
Oh, I'm fine right here. Well, but if you got Norman for the camera.
We want to see you.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right. First of all, thank you for the folks that put this committee together. I think it's very useful, as Lieutenant said. A wide variety of different folks, and we worked again those evenings. They fed us. It was a good event, and learned a lot. The key thing is we learned a lot. You know, there were a lot of people. Education was probably the biggest thing that we learned, of getting all the facts and knowing everything. There were some people that came in there that weren't quite sure about, hey, how we're going to improve our schools, and I really supported that. But once we got the data, we found that was very, very important. So we would encourage, and you'll see it in our recommendations, conclusions, to really get out educating folks. I think even some of the businesses in town and members of that committee have already volunteered to start putting together videos and things like that to educate people. But it's important that we start now to get that done and get people to see the overall vision. It's critical. I think we all know that it's critical when we look at our schools. We talked about economy of scale, how it could benefit our students overall. And again, this is one piece, right? The facilities, but we really need to get our community behind it. It starts with, education starting early. So, again, thank you for allowing us to participate. I think it's a very good process.
Thank you, Norman. Anyone else who would like to?
He said it all.
Okay.
He was our spokesman.
Yeah, he was.
I'll bookend it. I read a little bit of the preamble, and I think it might be appropriate to go ahead and just verbalize what the consensus recommendations were. Anyone who is interested in reading this 6-page report, it will be posted on our website. It's a public document. It's a result of committee work. And so I'd like to just read this last page 5 of 6. The committee said, we agreed to report the following from our efforts. For facilities, the district should identify and focus on projects that will benefit both students and the community. Prioritize student learning environment and facilities to encourage staff, student, and community growth and retention. In regards to facilities funding, the district should pursue a 55% voter approval general obligation bond with a projected rate of $60 per 100,000 of assessed value, which is controlled locally and spent locally. When available, seek matching funds from the state and federal programs and continue to pursue grants and other sources of funding. In community engagement and information, the district should work toward raising awareness in the community about the need for school facilities improvements and additional funds. The purpose and limitation on the general obligation bond. The minimal increase in property tax for the majority of homeowners. Academic studies showing that school bonds have a return on investment of $1.50 for every dollar spent. Funds stay local and are used only for facilities. Involve students, parents, staff, and administrators in promoting the district's successes, as well as informing the community about facilities needs. Collaborate, cooperate, and partner with other public agencies in the community. And lastly, in the area of accountability, the district should establish a citizens oversight committee for the general obligation bond measure. And so with this, we have at the end of the report, there's a list of district staff and consultants who participated. There's a signature page at the end that identifies the hand signature of members. And then the last page is a typewritten list of those names. So at this time, there's no action to be taken because this is a committee, a district committee. But I would like to, on behalf of the community committee, distribute these reports to each of you by board members for your review.
Thank you all. Any comments or questions from the board?
I guess I would like to make one comment. I've sat through a lot of meetings in my career. I have to congratulate Mr. Ostash on winning one, but I felt no pressure. Consensus was the only thing we were after. And I like to bookmark what he said with that comment.
Thank you. Mr. Frisbee.
I second that too.
Yeah. So for the community out in the TV land, our first speaker was Mr. Norm Alexander. Last speaker was
Monty Frisbee.
Monty Frisbee, my neighbor. The only thing I'll say is I want to thank everybody for participating. I really appreciate the sentiment that the most valuable thing was the education that you guys received going through the process. My sense is that when you sit down and have rational conversation with experts in the various fields that you have done, that were represented, as opposed to trying to get your facts from social media, that you probably learned some powerful things that really help you understand the situation, and that's so important. To, talk to the authorities and get good data, and come to a consensus across all walks of life that were represented in the close to 30 people that were devoted to this process. Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that. And we look forward to putting what you found into action. Anything else?
That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Danny, good seeing you. All right. We will move on to 3.2, A through G Complete Improvement Grant, GCIG. Draft plan presentation, Ms. Dr. Savko.
Thank you. Shall I stand?
Yeah, we can grab a chair, Michelle.
Thank you. On July 12, 2021, Assembly Bill 130, Education Finance, Education Omnibus Budget Trailer Bill was approved. AB 130 provides $557 million in one-time funding to support the A through G Completion Improvement Grant Program, which includes funding to improve A through G completion rates through staff development, pupil supports, additional access, high school learning loss, credit recovery, and covering advanced placement fees for students. The A through G CIG program is composed of 3 types of grants. Access grant for local educational agencies that had less than a 67% A through G completion rate in 2021. A success grant for LEAs that had a rate of 67% or higher A through G completion rate in 2020-21. A through G learning loss mitigation grant for students who received a grade of D or F or failed an A through G approved course. Sierra Sands Unified School District qualifies for the Access and A through G learning loss mitigation grants. The district's 2020-21 A through G completion rate was 23.5%. The Access grant allocation is based on the 2021 9th through 12th grade unduplicated pupil count multiplied by $265.60 per unduplicated pupil for a total of $252,584. Funds are available for expenditure or encumbrance through the 25-26 school year. Per California Education Code 41590C, the eligible uses of Access grant funding include the following: professional development for teachers, administrators, and counselors to improve A through G completion rate, including advanced placement specific training, developing comprehensive advising plans and other student supports, such as tutoring and course taking and college counseling services, expanding access to A through G coursework, including course development and review, and incorporating courses into local graduation requirements, and student test fees, including AP or IB test fees for unduplicated pupils. The Learning Loss Mitigation Grant is based on the 2021 9th through 12th grade unduplicated pupil count multiplied by $106.12 per unduplicated pupil for a total of $100,918. Funds are available for expenditure or encumbrance to the 25-26 school year. A through G learning loss mitigation grants shall be used to allow pupils who receive a grade of D, F, or fail in an A through G approved course in the spring semester of 2020 or the 2021 school year to retake those A through G courses. The method of offering pupils the opportunity to retake courses shall be determined by the LEA. If sufficient funds are available after implementing course retake opportunities, the LEA may also use grant funds to offer credit recovery opportunities to all students to ensure pupils are able to graduate high school on time. The local plan for the A through G CIG must be heard in a public meeting of the governing board of the school district before its adoption in a subsequent public meeting on or before April 1st, 2022. The law requires each plan to contain 4 elements. 1, how the funds received under this section will increase or improve services for unduplicated pupils to improve A through G eligibility. 2, the number of pupils identified for opportunities to retake courses. 3, how the plan described services, how the plan and described services supplement and do not supplant services in the local control and accountability plan, an AB 86 learning recovery plan, and a description of the extent to which all pupils within the LEA, particularly unduplicated pupils, will have access to A through G courses approved by the University of California. At the time of the submission of the board item for the February 17, 2022 regular board meeting, the A through G CIG plan template was not yet released by the California Department of Education. The district's A through G CIG draft plan is based on the 4 required elements, pending the official template as follows. 1, the funds received will increase or improve services for unduplicated pupils to improve A through G eligibility, including, but not limited to, providing tutoring support, expanding access to A through G coursework, including course development and review, and incorporating courses into local graduation requirements. C, developing comprehensive advising plans. And D, engaging in professional development of staff to meet the needs of students. And lastly, covering test fees, including AP, IB test fees for unduplicated students. 2, the number of pupils identified for opportunities to retake courses will be determined through a D and F rate analysis, which we conduct every quarter, every semester, and during progress reports. The plan and described services supplement LCAP and AB 86 Learning Recovery Plan by expanding credit recovery and academic student supports. The extent to which all pupils, particularly unduplicated pupils, will have access to A through G courses approved by the University of California is addressed through comprehensive advising plans, academic supports, and credit recovery options to remove barriers to obtaining a passing grade of A, B, or C in A through G courses. The district's A through G CIG access grant allocation is $252,584, and the A through G learning loss mitigation allocation is $100,918. All funds are available for expenditure or encumbrance through the 25-26 fiscal year and must comply with allowable uses. The A through G CIG presentation is for informational purposes. It's recommended that the A through G CIG plan be presented to the board for adoption at the regular meeting on March 10, 2022.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? See, there's no public comment on that. since this is recommendation, I mean, just for informational purposes.
They may have questions.
Yeah.
Any public comment on 3.2?
What'd you say? We have public comment. You can't ignore us. What did you say?
I said, any public comment on 3.2? I can hear my voice through the intercom.
Yeah.
No public comment?
That was negative. Okay. I do have one question. So are the Access Grant for local educational agencies and the Success Grant for LEAs, are they mutually exclusive? You can get one or the other?
Yes.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have no public comment. I'm sorry, no public hearings. So we'll move on to item 2, reports and communications. Student members report on item 3.2.
No,
Or public comment, general public comment. Okay.
Let's not get for that.
We'll use them. Item 5.1, student members report. Ms. Osterman.
So first is Murray Middle. Murray Middle School has been having a lot of fun. We had a Valentine's dance Friday night under the stars. It was a great evening. ASG has been very active, having spirit days regularly. Students had fun with anything but a backpack day. They used baby carriers, suitcases, ice chests, and more. They play music on the quad on Fridays as well. Our basketball teams have been doing great this year, and we look forward to wrapping up our season in March with the county tournament. Murray versus Monroe game at Burroughs High School and some fun games as well. We are getting ready to start our Junior Olympics for the spring as well. Music is getting ready to go on their elementary floor in March, and the high school will be coming to campus to play for our 8th grade students as well. We recognized over 100 students with a double lunch party for being nominated by the teachers for Student of the Month during the fall. Our teachers just finished January's nominations, and we will be awarding them soon. We also awarded almost 400 students with ACE cards for good citizenship in the fall semester. We look forward to the rest of the spring semester. Go Mustangs. Next is Monroe Middle School. What an exciting month February has been for our students. Our Celebration of Kindness Week was filled with opportunities for student engagement and recognition. Students participated in spirit days like Class Color for Solidarity, Tie-Dye Day showing how we blend, and Superhero Day, the power of kindness. Our organizations got together to raise money and help students recognize each other with our Black Student Union in 3rd July, selling kindness. ASB had a culminating dance on Friday with the theme Peace, Love, and Kindness. Our gracious community became involved, like Panda Express's donation of lunch to students nominated as being purposely positive and rising to the Tiger expectations. The Richmond Regional Hospital also donated $1,000 to our PBIS rewards program to encourage students to be kind, responsible, researchers, and safe. Our music students practice diligently in preparation for the coming elementary tours to recruit the next wave of talent, while they in return will be visited by the high school students to inspire the next level of excellence. To help build this excitement, we had 2 private concerts for band and orchestra students from visiting professional musicians. Also, our basketball is ready to finish its final month, and we would like to thank some of the local smaller schools for giving our 8th grade teams games that they would otherwise not get to play, like mine. Next month, we will have updates as students are preparing for Junior Olympics. STEAM continues to be a priority for our community as we create opportunities. Students are preparing for the science fair with help from Ms. Granger in both advising and acting. The local chapter of the American Chemical Society just opened registration for our students to participate in a great set of activities to generate interest in the world of research science. Thank you to the wonderful community for making these rewards, opportunities, and activities possible for our students. Next is Mesquite High School. Our students continue to volunteer at St. Michael's Food Bank once a month. They enjoy serving our community members and have built a great partnership with our volunteers and staff. ASB is currently celebrating Valentine's Day with candy grants. ASB members are selling candy and Valentine's Day cards to be delivered to students on Valentine's Day as a fundraiser. Several of our Mesquite ASB members have graduated, so our class is going through the interview process to add more students. Students must have full staff approval, 85% attendance rate, and go through an interviewing process with the current body to be accepted into ASB. This week, we had our second credit check for the quarter. Our credit check activity is powerful for the students because they can see the progress being made throughout the quarter and the number of credits earned up to. Lastly is Grove High School. Progress checks for the third quarter were mailed out last week, and we are ready for a busy rest of the quarter. On Friday, January 21st, we had a peek out for the day to raise awareness for breast cancer. On Friday, January 28th, we had Teacher Lookalike Day where students could dress like their favorite staff member. We have been busy with winter sports finishing up and spring sports like golf, baseball, softball, swimming, boys tennis, and track and field starting up. Our boys and girls varsity basketball teams have done especially well and made it to first round CIF. Friday, February 11th, we had Jersey Day to celebrate the Super Bowl. To celebrate Valentine's Day, we had Stoplight Day. Students wore red if they were in a relationship, yellow if it was complicated, and green if they were drug single. Next Friday, we plan to have Orange Day for Teen Dating Awareness Month. On the 26th, we have our King of Hearts dance. It will be hosted outside under the stars, and the theme is snowball. Go Birds. Thank you for my response.
Thank you. Understand you're a little bit slammed these days and gonna sneak out of here. Okay, well, you're welcome to stay. You're welcome to go.
Thanks.
All right, item 5.2, reports for members of the board. Comments from anyone? No? All right. I guess the only comment I'll make is that apparently Governor Newsom had a press conference today and in a answer to a question from a reporter said that he'll be making an announcement as to when they will stop the mask mandate on February 28th. I think it was clear that they would make the announcement on the 28th, not necessarily that the mask mandate would end on the 28th. So my hope is that either people will mask and either let us have a better experience or that the mask mandate will be done and we can be out there and have a better experience. People out there don't want masks. People in here don't want masks, but we're doing what we need to do to get the job done.
If I can just tag on to that comment, Kurt, I think it's important that we all understand it. We all know there's a lot of frustration over this issue and many things that we're trying to do to keep kids safe and keep school open. And I think it's important to recognize whether we all agree with the process. There is a process.
Right.
And the governor says they're going to make a review and make an announcement on the 28th, which means they're using some kind of process to determine how that should go. And I would think it's going to be important for all of us to make sure if we have information that we think ought to be included in that process, we try and get us to the appropriate places so that it can be considered. I think we all want a thoughtful, reasoned decision so that we can best serve our students. So I think we need to trust the process, support the process, participate in the process to get there.
Yeah, I concur. I think one of the things that I think through is that because of where we are today, we have a lot of voices from people who don't want masks. You know, the minute there's a decision to say that masks are no longer, they're strongly encouraged or they're not required or whatever the verbiage will be, all of a sudden there are people out there who think masks are important are going to be the ones that are going to be saying, hey, need to mask our kids. So it's, you know, there are people on both sides of the mask, both sides of the mask. And so we need to make sure we're doing the right thing for everybody to the best of our ability, which is exactly what we're doing. Anything else from the board? Let's move on to 5.3, Superintendent's Report, Dr. Ostash.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Rockwell. And really, to those points, I think it would be important. It wasn't in my notes necessarily to remark, but I should say I haven't made this point in a few months, but ever since the pandemic started, which now is 2 years, we have had these guiding principles in place. And those 5 guiding principles are, 1, the health and safety of students and staff. Number 2, to follow the law and take all reasonable steps to follow appropriate guidance. Number 3 is socialization and connection with students. Number 4 is provide nutritional services to our students. And number 5, optimize our means of educating our students. And it just occurs to me that each of those 5, they really work together, but also independently. You know, when I read number 4, provide nutritional services to our students, that kind of meant something different 18 months ago than it does now. Obviously, it's important at all times, but when we think about that summer, the seamless summer feeding right after that March 2020 feeding students, or that whole distance learning year, that number 4 meant something different. You know, right at the moment, we're dealing with kind of a hinge point. We know that the state has channeled to us that the masking requirement it's imminent. Obviously, it's imminent that it'll become a recommendation and it won't be required. And that will be fine when that happens, and that'll be good. And so we'll follow the law at that point and immediately implement what that rule is, which will be that it's not mandated. And if and when we have individuals who find opposition to that, we will respect. I speaking, you know, for my team and for everyone involved with Sierra Sands, we will respect and listen to anyone, anytime. But we have been consistent as a district and as a board. We have followed the law. We've taken all reasonable steps, and we've focused on keeping our in-person services for students. And it's just really, really hard. And the one thing I would say is that our staff, you know, our teachers and our staff are put in as of late, kind of a lose-lose situation where it's beyond any one person's ability to address all of the different preferences and all the different demands. And it's putting our schools in Sierra Sands and across the nation, but right now all I care about is the schools in Sierra Sands. It's putting our teachers and our staff in really untenable situations at times. And so I'd really just plead with all of our partners, our students, our parents, our community members to just kind of remember that as difficult as it is at the moment, we all rely on each other for our collective and individual success in the Indian Wells Valley. And we will move through this, and it will be gone, and it will be in the rearview mirror. And we'll be dealing with some other difficulty that we haven't even figured out yet. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek because sometimes we figure out our problems before we figure out our solutions. But I do want to remind everyone that we do live and work together, and I just hope, you know, we get through this without damaged relationships, and I think we're all capable of, you know, coming out on the right side. Some other things, month 5 enrollment is 4,946. We're up 67 students over this time last year. Our independent study update, we have 1,280 short-term study contracts since the start of the year. That's a mind-boggling number. I really, truly believe we are in the reversion process. We are moving back from pandemic to endemic. I think we're moving back to our normal problems. And I don't think we'll see anywhere near these numbers of short study contracts moving forward. I have some data to share in a minute that will, I think, point us in the right direction. Our long-term independent study program has increased. We've been around 120, 130 students the whole year, but over the last month or so, we've seen some students roll out and back into in-person, but we had far more roll in, and so we're at 171 students in long-term independent study. That's a growth. So I wanted to highlight that. I wanted to give the community an update on COVID, because I do that every month. So staff members who have tested positive for COVID, we had 89. We had a total of 89 as of last month, and now this month we've had 121 more since then. So we went from a total of 89 to a total of 263 in 30 days. You can see obviously that Omicron month, and it was pretty devastating, and don't even really want to revisit it. But January was really tough to staff. There were some really low moments, and it's almost miraculous that we kept all of our schools open. Students who have been on quarantine or study contracts, we had a total, so we reported 872 last month, 336 more since then. Actually, it's a total of 2,145 this year, so that's huge for the number of quarantined. And then students positive at site for contact tracing, total of 107 in the previous reporting, 67 more since then, and so a total of 274 this year, 274 positives as a result of contact tracing. And again, I think that's going to go down significantly. We're already seeing that. I'll give just a little bit more detail. Mr. Rockwell, you mentioned about the update on masking. It is true that, the California Department of Public Health unveiled that timeline for potentially changing the state school masking requirement. California Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Mark Galley explained that his staff will continue to evaluate the data on the pandemic and society generally and in schools specifically. And then his department will provide a public assessment of California's masking policy on February 28th. And you might be curious about some of the data they are looking at. Well, first they said that their desire is to prioritize in-person instruction, ensure that there's a low risk of catching COVID in schools, retire the masking requirements as conditions improve, and remain prepared to adjust to changes in the overall environment. But this is really encouraging. From January 14 to February 14, California saw COVID-19 cases plummet, decrease by 75.4%. Hospitalizations fell 40.6%. Hospital admissions dropped 62.7%. And then the test positivity rates declined by 72.9%. So that is pretty tremendous. Just a few more things. Kind of to Dr. Sapko's agenda item earlier this evening, there are just a lot of what you would call traditionally categorical or block grants. It's neither good nor bad. Well, it's good and bad. There's definitely, we're seeing a decisive departure from the LCFF philosophy and funding mechanism. Whereas LCFF in its full prime, basically just about every funding priority was wrapped into one revenue source, which was the base grant revenue of the LCFF, and then the supplementary and concentration grants to enhance that effort, and then utilize the LCAP as really the vehicle to identify all the individual priorities that a district would want to fund. Now you're seeing a very different philosophy coming from the legislature and the executive. Just for us in this district, over the last several weeks, we're either applying for or have received, and this is a partial list of these types of things: early education, teacher development grant, emergency connectivity funds, A through G completion improvement grant, the access and learning loss mitigation, the expanded learning opportunity program known as ELOP, the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Planning and Implementation Grant, the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant, Special Education Dispute and Resolution, Special Education Learning and Recovery. And we very recently applied for the California Pivotal Practices Award to highlight the exceptional work of nutrition services and the distribution of technology in the 2021 distance learning school year. And we're really excited about our prospect for that. And that's just a small list. And I just wanted to illustrate and emphasize that we're grateful to receive resources to accomplish things for students and to sustain and grow programs. We also should note, for accuracy, that these require lots of duplication and additional reporting that used to be wrapped up in the whole LCAP process, which was inclusive of teacher and classified association groups, teachers and staff in committee, parents, community members, and that whole process was really the process. Now we have multiple processes. Oh, and that's on top of the LCAP.
Mhm.
And sometimes you get these block grants that incidentally, depending on the district, can actually work to sort of supplant what you identified in your LCAP. So now you've got to retool your LCAP because you have duplication of funds just because you happen to identify that in your LCAP. And so I'm just highlighting that it's not a bad thing that I'm highlighting, but it's a thing, and it's changing the way schools are operating, and there are some inherent inefficiencies in the process. But I also wanted to highlight that we're being successful in navigating that, and that's obviously what we'll always do. And the last thing I wanted to highlight was I mentioned last month about lifting up our future leaders, our CRCN's Future Leaders Network. And we had, I believe, something like 27 certificated and classified members indicate interest. We had around 21 or so who were able to make the first meeting on February 10, and it was really exciting. Members of my team were there, cabinet were there. We were able to lift up conversations, and we have an agenda for the next several meetings. We're looking at starting a cohort of CRCN's folks to get administrative credential together, and which is the best practice to grow within, and to also to learn, collaborate from within. So we're just really excited about the number of existing employees who are interested in growing their careers in our district. So with that, that completes my report. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dr. Justice. Item 5.4. Report to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association.
All right.
Hot seat up front.
Here, I think last time. That's it. Okay, posted. President Rockwell, members of the board, staff community. This is the start of a 4-day weekend, in case anybody here is unaware. My students know, yes. My colleagues know, students, my favorite custodians on the way out today is leaving rehearsals. Like, have fun, I can't wait. But I want to say right up front that as I planned my 4-day weekend some time ago, I forgot or wasn't paying attention to the fact that this was a school board meeting night, so I'm going to be slipping out. So, with all due respect, get my weekend going. So where are we with data? We're very pleased for the days off. It really does help to get that. A lot of us are getting away. A lot of us are staying home. I think all of us are going to be spending some amount of time to work. So on the one hand, this is great because we all do our work Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon. So we have a little bit more. It's also frustrating that we have a job that requires us to spend so much time outside our contract hours. And, we're not attorneys. We're not getting that kind of money. And it's frustrating. We're grateful. It's also frustrating. We're frustrated with a few other things. The student apathy at the high school is not getting better. Surprise. And what that does, it's not the apathy that we always get, right? That's always been there, but it's much more pervasive and societal in this broader sense of what does it all mean. And I think probably all of us have been there, right? If we're not questioning that in the last couple of years, I'd be surprised. And what this does, it in a way like forces us to put in more effort because we want to connect with the kids. We want to teach them and we want to connect with them, right? Because that's really where we get them. So it's putting a lot more in us. The student behavior issues at elementary can't be adequately addressed because of the staffing issues. And again, that's a broad problem. There's nobody to easily point a finger at, right? This is where we're at. There's too much testing. I was listening to a story in a kind of an emphasis in academics, which could sound weird for a teacher to say because that's why I'm here. That's why we're all here. But NPR had an interesting story talking about play and how important it is for kids to play. And then as kids progress, it can take a toll and they start to lose their natural interest in learning. So I think we need to just consider that. I think that's not something that we can fix easily, but we need to keep in our heads that there is more to school and to producing, adults for the real world than just hardcore academics and testing. We need to address the whole child, which I think is ultimately the goal of our district. And I think sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that. A lot of extra work for staff, and it's not just us, it's all of us in this room. Families are feeling the burden. It's a lot for all of us, but we've got that weekend. It's February. We don't have our contract yet. I'm not going to belabor that. A little bit of a pun with labor there. Negotiations, I think, is very eloquent. So, I think you're all aware of what's going on. Just in general, there's nothing particular going on. We just need to get this done. But I was speaking recently with somebody about this whole process, and one of you had mentioned believing in the process, and it's slightly different. And I say this, I think, probably too much, but I think that sense of believing in, data and the district, and we're at odds. But I think we really forged a relationship that I'm proud of. And it gets contentious, which is just part of it. But ultimately, I think because both sides care passionately about getting what we want, about being fair, and about following the system, I think what we have is a good relationship. So, on that happy note, I'm going to skedaddle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poole. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
We're going to item 5.5, report to the Board of Trustees by the California School Employees Association.
I also will.
We're going to leave when we're done.
Okay. Hello, School Board President, Board members, Superintendent, Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. CSE's negotiating team has met with the district and continues to work on a solution for our subpar pay scale. Our members continue to voice their concerns with me about the pay scale and being overworked and underpaid. At our monthly meeting held this past Tuesday, one of our members stated we need to start being compensated for our work. It was also stated that the district says that they appreciate their classified employees. However, the classified employees do not feel that they do. Cost of living has risen and is the same across the board. What is not equitable across the board is the cost of living is the salaries for classified staff. The cost of a loaf of bread or a gallon of gas is the same for everyone. The only difference is that others may be able to afford the loaf of bread or a gallon of gas where the classified staff struggle to. Thank you.
Please enjoy your weekend as well. Okay, item 5.6, communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on an item not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items not on the agenda. If appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name and address at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond the 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting. So we will open public comment at 7:56.
Public comment, everyone on time, there'll be part of the last one. 3 minutes. You got a chair right there, so
All right.
Oh, we got it.
So do I start?
Yep, you're all set.
All right, I'm Matt Gross. Said I had to say my address, 611 Garris Avenue. I know a number of you in here. Had dinner with a number of you in here. I think we're friends. I've shopped locally to support local businesses. I'm not here to cause trouble. I know you're in a difficult position, but So I have 5 kids in your school district. And all 5 of my kids are suffering. And there's stuff we can do about it. So how are my kids suffering? My kid is always the highest in his class. He had 2 D's and an F on his last update. My daughters, 7th graders, 2 of them, highest in their class, B's, C's, D's. Their academics are terrible. What they have learned is that deadlines do not matter. Personal achievement does not matter. You got a D, we'll give you a B. Happy day. Don't work hard, it doesn't matter. You're a cog in the machine. You're not a person, you're a cog with a mask. They suffer bereavement by teachers daily. The math teacher daily tells her class, I'm going to die because of you kids. I'm going to get a lifelong disease that is going to affect me, and it's your fault. This happens with the teachers. Daily bereavement. They suffer isolation. My 7th grader gets daily migraines ever since the masks. So she comes home, gets her ibuprofen, takes a nap, then she's okay. Language development. My kindergartner probably needs some language development. I, as a youth, couldn't say L. Maybe I still can't say L's. I sat with the speech therapist. You know what I did? I looked at her mouth. She made me look at her tongue. We don't do that now. Mental health. These kids are so isolated. They're just messed up. I know you're in a tough spot, but it's time. The masks are enough already. That's just one microcosm of this whole thing. To bring some sort of normality to these children. Those fearful of masks, wear your mask. If you think about how a mask works, I'm a scientist. You breathe out, stuff comes around. You breathe in, it comes through the mask. So who's the mask protecting more? The person afraid of COVID, the one wearing the mask. So if you're afraid of it, it's more beneficial for you than the little kid who doesn't even get sick. Plus, all my kids have had COVID. So you can wear your mask, you can wash your hands. If they're really scared, do a nasal wash. There's a lot of data that shows nasal washes. Every day, come home, teacher, do a nasal wash. Instead of berating my kid all day, telling him you're killing me, let's just do something. You're vaccinated, so what the hell's going on? And I'm a little disappointed in the meeting tonight. This mask has become so polarizing.
And your 3 minutes is up, so you need to wrap it up with your final comments.
You came in this room, we can't hear a thing you say. You've broken the first rule of COVID, 6 feet of separation. For the stupid mask, just sit out there and let us hear you. Yeah, I know you're in a tough spot, but come on. Come out with your public comment. What'd you say? Because there's echoes, we can't hear a bloody thing. It's time, it's enough already.
Okay, and your time's up.
I'd like to stay in here for a moment because my daughter's.
Oh, if you've got a juvenile, that's fine.
Yes, I
Yeah, no worries.
have a bunch of them.
Call the next one in.
Okay, and they didn't bring the little girls.
Only one. Only one. One at a time. One at a time.
So does
One at a time. One at a time.
Simple as 7th graders come together. People are trained to be alone. Is that
Can they not be in there with the mask?
You can have a seat right there. Your dad can stand. Just one at a time.
So that's ridiculous too. This is government.
Okay, but this is her public. That's yours. So if she's got something to say, it's time for her.
Let her say it.
I'm waiting for you to stop.
This is my daughter. She needs her paper so she can speak. She wrote her thoughts down. Chloe, come get them. Go. She will say her piece with his daughter.
We already got that.
Wrote their comments
We already
down.
got that squared away.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You stay. So, young lady, what's your name?
My name is Chloe Williams, and I live on 618 Untitled Drive. We've been in this pandemic for 3 years now. It's not okay to go through math.
one of you guys would like to?
I'll read it for you, no problem. All right, Chloe. It says, you guys are torturing us and ruining our childhood. You are more about the masks than the kids or their education. From 2 Murray students. P.S. Our spelling is bad because you care more about the masks than our education. Let us be free. Get that right? Okay, thank you for writing that. Is there anything else you want to tell us?
No.
Thank you also for your bravery.
Yeah, thank you, folks. And it's ironic that we're talking about masks. You know, masks is beautiful.
If you have one on your shoulder, I don't know. I'm scared of pop. Hey, Lexi, come here. Lexi. Yep, come here. You can do it.
You can sit right there. Oh, you're on TV.
Hi, Lexi.
Hi. Okay, so this is by Carmela too. Why do we have to wear masks when they don't even protect us? They're polluting the earth and we can't breathe with them. Like if we're doing PE inside, we shouldn't be forced to wear them while we're running. Our teachers yell at us every day because of a thin piece of blue fabric that doesn't even do anything. And what's the point of bragging on us to put it on correctly when it literally doesn't make a difference wearing it or not?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lexi Grove.
Thank you. Is Phoenix coming? My daughter's in it now.
How are you doing tonight?
Hello. Good evening.
So I wanted to start off with the fact that the mask mandates
Name and
state.
address first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Karen Taggart, 1457 Leroy Street, Ridgecrest. The mask mandates were dropped, as I'm sure you all know, 2 days ago for the statewide. There have been numerous school boards throughout the state who have actually adopted the same mandates, or removed the mandates, I should say, for the students as well. There was actually 3 board members recalled up in San Francisco yesterday because of the same kind of thing of, not caring about what's going on with these kids. You hear these kids, you hear how emotional they are. They're not faking this. They are literally mentally being destroyed by this mask. And for what? I caught COVID a few weeks ago from a vaccinated person while wearing a mask for 8 hours of the day, while they were wearing a mask as well. So again, proven right there, studies beside the point, proofs right there that these masks do nothing. Nothing. The vaccines do nothing but harm the children, which is my next issue, is that we're going to be forcing that on these children, which is literally killing them. It is causing heart problems. And we're going to be forcing that on them come July, which is just disgusting. The other thing is the lack of replies from the board. We ask you questions, we come in, we make comments, and never, ever do we get a response or a comment back. Mr. Ferris yelled at me out in the lobby and told me we disagree. And so I'm not going to answer you. So, that's the thing is you guys are so cut off from the public and from the people who elected you and put you here that you don't want anything to do with hearing anything they have to say. As long as you get your COVID funding or whatever it is that's, I don't know why all of a sudden the mask mandates came about partway through the year when there was no mask mandate throughout the state or anything else. The other thing is, I don't know if any of you have seen, I'm sure you have, it's gone pretty viral, the video of the children in Vegas when they took down the mask mandates. And these children, these little kids, are in there cheering and excited because they took down these mask mandates because it is mentally scarring them. It is ruining their lives. The detriment from that, the mental health part of it, is completely and totally far worse than COVID. They're not even susceptible to dying from COVID. There's literally been 500 children throughout the entire United States die from COVID.
those children had actually 4 or more underlying conditions. And I proved a point when you guys, you wanted to bring up last month at the meeting that I wore a mask in December. It was for one reason, well, 2 reasons really. One reason was to show you and to prove that this mask, it's a piece of mesh. It does nothing. And on top of that, I will, thank you. On top of that, the other point was I wanted to actually ask a question, and that's literally the only way to do it. So, and again, which is ridiculous because it's a total violation of the Brown Act. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Hello. Good evening. Don't like public speaking too much, so I'll try to make it quick.
Start with something easy. Can we get your name and address?
Yeah. Abel Galvan. I live on the boulevard. Do I have to put the whole thing? The whole address? No, just the boulevard. That's fine. Okay. All right. When I started working in this district 4 years ago, I think you were the one that interviewed me. I was okay with the working conditions. They weren't bad. It was a good balance. The low number of substitutes for the job I worked was okay. We stuck together. We were a team. We all had pretty good immune systems, so that was pretty good. The benefits also outweighed my stress from the job. We dealt with a lot, and since then I've worked as a custodian for the past 3 years at 2 sites. Staff are awesome, staff are great. Objectively, the job isn't hard to do. Like, anyone can do my job, and I know that. But the amount of time I can actually put into this job daily is not enough to keep our campuses as clean as they need to be. There is simply too much to do with staff that we have available. We need positions open and to be filled. Staff come to me with their requests for, this little thing, that little thing. And I have to weigh how necessary their request is to my day. Odds are most of the requests aren't. They're really not. My job lately is to keep my site functionally sanitary. And all my boxes are checked daily to do these things that absolutely have to get done. Restrooms, trash, contact surfaces. Daily, I have to get these done. It's really easy. Get a bag, tie the bag. Get a rag, clean a surface. The issue isn't the job. It's how many hands I have. My job has become, emergency bare bones daily. If I have rooms to spray, or I need to help a teacher with broken furniture, dispenser refills, or whatever else needs to happen on campus, I have to weigh that and see where I can put it in my day. And I'm walking over 10 miles daily. And just today, my ankle, I almost couldn't walk on it when I got back from work. And I'm in my 20s.
Unfortunately, you're 3 minutes up. If you can just wrap it up into your final comment.
All right, thank you. Okay. Currently, I'm weighing my employment options online and out of the district. due to all these extra stresses and very, very, very small paychecks. That'll be it. Yeah. Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Claire Galvan, as seen on TV. This one? Oh, it's the empty chair, yeah. Mm-hmm. Hi. I'm Claire Galvan. I'm married to that Galvan. Okay. Every single classified worker left in this district is severely overworked and severely underpaid. There are no substitutes for those of us still here, and no one new is coming in to fill the open positions. And why would they, since we're getting paid crumbs for doing the work of two people? You know, we keep hearing that you guys appreciate us and, you know, all we're doing in these trying times, but the appreciation's being shown with extra duties, double duties, low pay, and without us, the classified staff, I mean, the phones don't get answered, kids don't get fed, schools don't get clean, children don't get individual, like, one-on-one attention and care that they, like, desperately need now. It's just frustrating. The classified staff is not responsible for the district's inability to grow and maintain a workforce. It's not our responsibility to compensate for the fact that the district can't hire enough people to keep the schools running, and we won't sacrifice our minds and body to do so. We might not have degrees in education, but we all work in education, and we do deserve to be compensated fairly for it. You want my paper, Diane?
Absolutely.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a chair right there. So,
Hello. Good evening, everybody. My name is Yvonne Bartle, and I'm a food service manager. I'm not sure if you're aware of who I am and how critical I am to your district. I'm not also sure if you're aware that the number of us that show up to these meetings is usually low because many of us have to have second jobs to live and maintain work life. We don't just complain from the sidelines, it's because we're at work at a second job. Or in my case, having to consider the amount of gas that I'll use to get back and forth and whether or not I can count for that in my budget. I realize these things might not seem significant to somebody who only makes, isn't making only 4 cents more than the staff they manage, or even 84 cents more than somebody who walks in needing to only know how to wash a load of dishes. That's right, $15.04 an hour. And aside from just preparing breakfast and lunch, I, along with coworkers, are unlicensed nutritionists who do our best to provide meals to children with diabetic needs, special needs, as well as severe allergies, which include things like anaphylaxis and feeding tubes, just playing with lives. I was at one point proud of the thought of becoming a manager, and then it came to be. I have quickly realized how much it isn't worth it, which is terrible because I really enjoy my job finally. I recently took a demotion from manager 1 to a 1, and I only lost $20.75 a month. While wearing multiple hats, saved you guys thousands of dollars. If not for your fruit scoopers, broom pushers, phone answerers, bus and playground police, and the countless of other classified employees who arrive as early as 5 a.m., this district would fall off of its axis. We are dropping like flies, and it's time you guys open your eyes and realize what you have at stake. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
My name is Missy Gross, and can you guys hear me okay? I live here in Ridgecrest. I would like to encourage you all to drop the mask mandate for our kids. This is up to you. You say it's not, you say it's up to the state, it is up to you. There have been other districts in the state of California who have made masks optional. Sierra Sands does not need to be different. We can be the same. I heard a quote, if the science differs by geographic area, it's not science, it's politics. Our children are not pawns in a political game. I'm done sending my children to school with masks. I will not continue to do it. I will not. I told my children, no revolution ever happened by complying. None. We're done complying. Sorry, I'm very emotional about this. Kids are the demographic that are the least likely to be harmed by COVID. Most have had it. It's been burning through boroughs and Murray. They already had it. They're not going to get it again anytime soon. The scientific data does not support your continued masking of my children. However, scientific studies have shown that our kids are suffering socially. 2 years. 2 years is a very long time when you're 15 and when you're 13, or 5. That's a majority of some of these kids' lives. They have not been able to see facial expressions. They have not been able to see smiles. We are so old, me too, we don't remember what it's like to learn from facial expressions. We already know that. We take it for granted. Our children do not have that. I personally am concerned my kids already spend enough time behind screens, okay? Way too much. They need socialization, and they need socialization where they can see an entire face, not just the eyes. Kids that wear glasses are even more disadvantaged because their glasses fog up and then they can't see. My son, you heard Matt talk about 2 D's and an F, makes me want to swear because he has been a straight A student, 4.2 GPA until now, okay? What you're doing is not working. And it is up to you. You work for us. Okay? Dave, I know you personally. Kurt, I know you personally. Chad, I know you professionally. I expect better from you. You are elected by us. We expect you to stand up for our children, not to mask them. I will say one last thing. 2 last things. They're uncomfortable. It's distracting. It's distracting our kids from learning. My daughter gets yelled at in math by her middle school teacher for not wearing a mask. It's not okay. It's wasting time. She's not learning math. It's already a difficult subject, okay? She needs to learn it. My son, I started out college as a Spanish major because it was my favorite subject.
That was your 3 minutes. I was hoping that you
I will. One more thing. I was so excited for him to get to Burroughs to finally be able to take foreign language. He's in his 2nd year, doesn't know it, hates it, can't hear his teacher. I went to back to school night. I couldn't hear his teacher. And we were all quiet parents. Okay? These kids are not learning. And it is going to be on your heads, you guys. You don't understand this.
Okay, your time's up. We only have 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
No worries. We let you go over. So,
Thank you.
I still respect you guys. I still personally like you, but I expect better.
Never been here before. What's the drill? What do I do?
name and address, and then tell us what you think.
Kim Barraza. I live off the boulevard on Mariposa. This is my son Brock. Enough is enough, guys. You were my teacher. You were my teacher. I don't know the rest of you. I know you, just because you're a Ferris. My son is a straight A student, okay, amongst many other ones. An angel, never been in trouble, never been in the office, never had any negative attention against him ever since TK. He's been here in Ridgecrest. I'm a local. I've been here since I'm 3 years old. He gets isolated. He gets sent out on the bleachers. He gets food served to him on the 15th of February. Not acceptable. Period. These masks are insane. And I know that you guys know this. And I have to think that when you clock out and you're done your jobs and you guys go home to your families, that this little piece of paper is irrelevant. It doesn't protect anything. It is hurting them. I am never been this upset in my life. Your children that you guys have are your world, I'm assuming, as mine. I will kill, die, bleed for my children. And the fact that I can't even express enough the anger that came behind him respectfully saying, no, I don't want to wear a mask anymore. I don't want to. He has no underlying issues. There's really no excuse to actually have to make for it other than these are just ridiculous. These are done. And we know as a community that you guys do have power. You do hold candles. You can make decisions. We are not stupid people out there. Okay, we do our work. We do our findings. We do our research. Just again, like you guys, we're all the same people. We are all together in this community. You guys are making us separate. You guys are continuing the segregation because you refuse to stand up for our kids, maybe for your own. I don't know. I don't know where your children go. If they go, I don't know. These are ridiculous, and you guys have to do something. You have to be the change. You see us. We're here. We're coming. We're present. We're here to look. I can't even. It's constant. It's constant. It's ridiculous. It doesn't help. It doesn't prevent. COVID has killed. Masked, unmasked, vaxxed, unmasked. The numbers are done. They're not there. It is all irrelevant. It is control. All control. Newsom can suck it, okay? Let him go. Let him go. Who gives a crap what he does? Stop being in fear for your jobs. I promise you, the district is not going to shut down. I promise you. Monroe, Murray, all the elementary schools, they're not going to shut down. You guys aren't going to lose, okay? We need you guys, like said before, to do better for our kids. You guys are parents. You have to, we trust our kids in your care, We teach them. You respect these teachers. You respect the district. You respect the principal. That's what we teach our kids. Now I'm teaching my kid, stand up, son. Stand up for for your rights. It's fine. Please, guys, please don't be afraid anymore, okay? Please.
Anybody else wants to comment?
Come on, Bubba.
There is no point to wear a mask.
Young lady,
Yeah.
can you start with your name
Oh,
and your
okay.
address for us?
Okay. My name is Carmela Madrigal, 614 Garris Avenue.
What was the last name, sir?
Madrigal.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So there is no plan to wear masks. My friends and I do sports, and in our games we are always forced to wear a mask during our games. And during our games, we run around and we sweat. And it doesn't help to not breathe at the same time. And so our teachers constantly yell and call our parents if we don't wear the masks. And the teachers would rather start an argument of not wearing masks instead of teaching us. We should not have to suffer from that. Half of the people don't even wear them correctly, so it explains enough that we won't want to wear them. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You might want to announce and email on the back up if there's other people.
All right, great. So if there are others who would like to speak, we will reopen public comment at the close of the regular meeting. In a while.
Oh yeah, we do have that.
Okay, well, we'll read that one since it was in here before time. Yeah, okay, so we'll read that at the end. But I will say, thank you to everybody who came in. I think this is the first time we've actually had somebody, even one person, come in and public comment and actually tell us what they were thinking. And we mean it every time when we say we want people to do that. And so I'm grateful that so many people took the time to share their thoughts today. So that takes us to item 6, educational administration. We will start with number 1, approval of 3-year contract renewal for IXL Learning at James Monroe and Murray Middle Schools. Ms. Decker.
Good evening, President Rockwell, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, of 2015 holds schools accountable for improving student achievement. Access to relevant data and analysis tools can help schools and teachers make more informed decisions about programs and student achievement. Alignment of instruction, assessment, and monitoring program effectiveness are 2 specific actions that are used to improve educational practice in mathematics. Murray and Monroe Middle Schools would like to continue using the IXL online math intervention program to provide additional instruction to students not meeting math standards. IXL is a personalized learning platform that is proven to improve learning outcomes for all students. IXL's comprehensive curriculum, real-time diagnostics, personalized guidance, and actionable and analytics work together seamlessly to give teachers everything they need to differentiate instruction and help students to master math standards. The DoDEA STEAM grant is currently in its final year of implementation at Monroe and Murray Middle Schools. One of the goals of the program is to improve college career readiness for military-connected students in math, and a strategy is to extend learning for math reinforcement. The second quarter DNF reports indicate a need for math intervention at all grade levels. Murray and Monroe's 3-year renewal agreement with IXL Learning will allow math teachers to regularly monitor student progress in math. Regularly monitoring student progress has been identified as a district goal in both the school plan for student achievement and the local control accountability plan. The 3-year renewal agreement is $36,382 and will be funded out of the DoDEA STEAM grant funds. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize James Monroe and Murray Middle Schools to enter into a 3-year contract with IXL Learning.
Move the recommended action. Second. Got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Questions from the board staff? Well, Mr. Scott looks for public comment.
Any public comment on 6.1?
6.1. All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move to item 6.2, approval of 3-year contract for Explore Learning Science Gizmos at James Monroe and Murray Middle School.
Like I said before, the STEAM grant is currently in its final year at both of the middle schools. And like I said, also the goals of the program are to improve college and career readiness for military-connected students in math and science instruction, emphasizing project-based learning and interdisciplinary instruction. Gizmos is the world's largest library of interactive online math and science simulations aligned to Common Core math and science standards that help teachers bring new learning experiences to the classroom. Students develop a deep understanding of challenging concepts through inquiry and exploration. Students move beyond memorizing facts to true understanding of academic concepts. The simulations can be used in small groups, whole class, or individually. The middle school science teachers have been using Gizmos since 2017 and would like to continue using this platform. The online platform allows teachers to provide engaging activities for students in science. The science teachers find value in how the simulations supplement the current science curriculum. It also helps prepare the students for the types of questions they will encounter on the California Science Test, or CAST. The 3-year agreement is $12,258.23 and will be funded out of the DODEA STEAM grant funds. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize James Monroe and Murray Middle Schools to enter into a 3-year contract with Explore Learning Gizmos.
Recommend action, Surgeon.
Motion second. Any questions or comments from the board? Staff?
Any public comment on 6.2? Public comment is for your comment, so no comment for 6.2? No comments for 6.2?
Ready. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Item 6.3, approval to purchase cafeteria tables and outdoor tables for the Pierce After School Education and Safety ACES program for the 2021-22 school year.
Recommend action. Second.
Any discussion over this? Pretty straightforward.
Any public comment? 6.3, cafeteria tables.
We have a motion and a second. All of them say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We will move on to item 6.4, presentation of supplement to the annual update for the 2021-22 Local Control and Accountability Plan LCAP update to the 2021-22 budget overview for parents and 2021-22 LCAP mid-year report. Mr. Sadko, why are all your items the ones with the all titles? Dr. Sadko, I'm sorry.
We're all wondering.
California's 21-22 Budget Act, the Federal American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, and other state and federal relief acts have provided local educational agencies with a significant increase in funding to support students, teachers, staff, and their communities in recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic and to address the impacts of distance learning on students. Section 124E of Assembly Bill 130 requires LEAs to present an update on the annual update, that's right, to the 21-22 LCAP and budget overview for parents on or before February 28, 2022, at a regularly scheduled meeting of the governing board or body of the LEA. At this meeting, the LEA must include all the following: the supplement to the annual update for the 21-22 LCAP, all available mid-year outcome data related to metrics identified in the 21-22 LCAP, and mid-year expenditure and implementation data on all actions identified in the 21-22 LCAP. When reporting available mid-year outcome, expenditure, and implementation data, LEAs have flexibility to provide this information as best suits the local context, provided that it is succinct and contains a level of detail that is meaningful and accessible for the LEA's educational partners. The 21-22 supplement is considered part of the 22-23 LCAP for the purposes of adoption, review, and approval, and must be included with the upcoming LCAP as follows, not the current LCAP. The 22-23 budget overview for parents, 21-22 supplement, 22-23 LCAP, the action tables for the 22-23 LCAP, the instructions for the LCAP template. As such, the 21-22 supplement will be submitted for review and approval as part of the LEA's 22-23 LCAP. The presentation is intended to meet the requirements established by Assembly Bill 130 and is for informational purposes. There are no financial implications, and again, this presentation is for informational purposes and to fulfill the AB 130 reporting requirements. I'm going to exercise our flexibility to provide this information as best suits our local context, provided that it is succinct and contains a level of detail that's meaningful and accessible for our educational partners. So in the board packet, you should have about 4 attachments. You'll have one attachment that is the board presentation. So that contains all of the reporting requirements in a more succinct fashion. So I'm going to use that as my baseline to go over all of the updates. And if you need more detail and less succinctness, please indicate that. Okay, so for the budget overview for parents, as a result of the enacted 21-22 state budget, concentration grants were provided an additional 15% of the base grant amount. That's why we have to do the supplement. Sierra Sands anticipates receiving approximately $264,000 in additional concentration grant funds. As a result of a shortage of credentialed teachers in the community, county, state, and country, these add-on funds are being used to continue to pay the current staff employed to provide services specifically to our unduplicated student population. In terms of the supplement to the annual update, we needed to address 5 prompts. How we engaged our educational partners with the Budget Act of 2021. And we did that as a district through our educational partner meetings, such as school site councils or district English learner advisory committee, those opportunities to engage. And we also presented all of those plans at public board meetings. We have to articulate how we use the concentration grant add-on funds. And as I indicated, we are using our additional unexpected funds to continue to pay for the salaries of staff appointed to meet the needs of unduplicated pupils. The third prompt is a bit redundant because it asks us, how did we engage folks in our one-time funds, right? How did we get feedback in the same venue that we engage our educational partners at the school site councils, DLACs, ELACs, board meetings? Implementation of SR3 funds. I'm going to have to refer to one of my cheat sheets here. If you recall, we've done some really great work with our SR3 funds. We implemented many actions identified in our expenditure plan. Specifically, we implemented the 2021 summer school intersessional instructional programs, Tiers 2 and 3 academic interventions, and the majority of the private or PLTE network. We have to also articulate challenges to our implementation of SR3. These challenges include attaining and retaining qualified counselors to support social emotional learning. The PLTE network geographic coverage and identifying solutions through supplementary devices that boost signals in remote areas of our rural service area has also posed challenges. So currently our director of technology, our chief technology officer, right? He is going out into the community and determining the signal gaps, if you will, so that way we can have a plan to ensure that the network is accessible to all students. And then finally, one of the last updates we need to provide is how the use of the SR3 funds are consistent with our LCAP goals. So example of aligned services to our LCAP include but are not limited to expanding summer school learning to TK through 8th grades, extending the independent study program to accommodate students in an alternative educational model, purchasing expanded licensing on academic programs, ensuring secondary student support staff to increase Tier 2 and 3 SEL and academic supports, and purchasing technology devices and internet to support academic needs of all learners. The last requirement is to present our mid-year update in terms of metrics, expenditures, and implementation. And you can refer to a more succinct version in your board presentation, which the public also has access to. And then there's also a template and report. I wanted to bring to your attention an item of significance, and that is in regards to our implementation. I believe it's goal 2, action 1, which is providing our counselors in elementary schools and then middle schools. And for the public's information, it's curious that the state doesn't require counselors as essential personnel, right? And so our district has always prioritized the mental health of our students. What has been a significant challenge in our LCAP Goal 2 Action 1 is being able to retain 2 elementary counselors. So in terms of expenditures, we're below where we projected to be mid-year because we weren't able to hire one of the 6 FTE counselors needed for elementary. And then we also had one resign right before winter break. And so at those specific sites, we're working with the remaining elementary counselors to provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 support, which looks like small groups and individualized services, while we push out the whole group SEL lessons in class with teachers. In terms of metrics, most of the data in our LCAP is annual. So it's improbable and impossible to report mid-year data. We do have mid-year data for our DNF rates, and then I also ran some mid-year data for attendance rates. All of our actions in our LCAP are either final or in progress. Do you have any questions? Comments?
Thank you for putting that all together.
It was as succinct as possible.
Yeah, I'm on the item.
Megan? I'll ask you any questions or comments other than if she did justice to the long title. Thank you. Let's see, we'll move to section 7, policy development review, item 7.1. Adoption of board policy administrative regulation 5148.2 before and after school programs. Ms. Decker.
I want to restart.
Yes.
So when you go through these, if you just say if there's something that CSB recommended and we're just adopting those, or are these new things that we're adding that's different from what they're proposing?
Right.
Make it easier for.
Yeah, when I brought it last month for the first read, I did say that, yeah, any of the policies, board policies or ARs are always recommended by CSBA.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. The first reading of BPAR 5148.2 before and after school programs was January 20, 2022. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5148.2 reflects a new law, AB 130-2021, which establishes the Expanded Learning Opportunities, or ELO program, and allocates ELO funding to districts under a formula based on a district's percentage of unduplicated students and average daily attendance. Commencing in the 22-23 school year, the district must offer unduplicated students access to an ELO program. ELO programs require in-person before or after school expanded learning opportunities that, when added to the daily instructional minutes, are not less than 9 hours of combined instructional time, and for intersession periods provide in-person expanded learning opportunities of no less than 9 hours per day for at least 30 non-school days. AB 130 requires after-school education safety, or ACES, and ELO programs that charge family fees to schedule fees on a sliding scale that considers family income and ability to pay, and to waive the cost of such fees for a student who is eligible for free or reduced priced meals. ELO programs must comply with all ACES program requirements. Sierra Sands currently has ACES programs at Fowler, Indy-Kern, and Pierce. Beginning in the 22-23 school year, expanded learning opportunities, or ELO programs, will be created at Gateway, Las Flores, and Richmond. There are no financial implications, and it's the superintendent's recommendation to adopt Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5148.2 before and after school programs as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Only question I have is any changes since the first reading a month ago?
No. Nope.
Any public comments, 7.1, before and after school program?
Negative. Got a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Take us to item 7.2.
7273. That's our approval. Last week.
Aye.
Last month.
I second.
Got a motion in a second. Any questions or comments on those items? Staff?
Any public comment on 7.2, 7.3?
Negative. We've got a motion and a second for 7, 2, and 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This as well. To item 7.4, first reading of Board Policy 6170.1, Transitional Kindergarten. Sacco.
Thank you. The Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction has reviewed selected board policies and administrative regulations as a result of recommendations for revisions from the California School Boards Association Policy Service. The proposed board policy 6170.1, Transitional Kindergarten, is new for the district and board consideration. Current considerations. Board policy 6170.1, Transitional Kindergarten, is a required policy for districts that maintain a kindergarten program. Education Code 48000 defines transitional kindergarten as the first year of a 2-year kindergarten program that uses a modified kindergarten curriculum that is age and developmentally appropriate. Many of the requirements applicable to kindergarten, class size, minimum school day facilities, are also applicable to TK. Board Policy 6170.1 provides the purpose of the program, student eligibility criteria, curriculum and instruction requirements, as well as staffing and credentialing requirements. In addition, the policy articulates Education Code 8281.5 as added by Assembly Bill 130, which established the California Pre-Kindergarten Planning and Implementation Grant Program as an early learning initiative to expand access to classroom-based pre-kindergarten programs or universal pre-kindergarten transitional kindergarten. There are no financial implications. This is the first reading of this policy and it will be presented to the board for approval at the March 10th, 2022 meeting.
Any questions or comments?
I just have one. So when they implement the universal pre-K, will it change this board policy with that wording, or is it going to be, we know?
It will remain the same. That is, as we know, an expected point of confusion because we have been using transitional kindergarten for the state when it really means pre-kindergarten. And so, no pun intended here, but it is actually. It's universal. Like TK is the same as pre-K, but it won't change the title of the policy.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments from anybody in the room?
Any public comment on 7.4, pre-kindergarten?
Negative. This is the first reading, no actions required. We'll move to 8, personnel administration.
8, 1, and 2.
And 3.
Have a second?
Move 8, 1, 8, 2 will second that. Okay.
Okay.
So, got a motion and a second on 8, 1, 8, 2. Any questions or comments on those? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move 8, 3.
Second. Any questions or comments on 8, 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably should.
Yep.
Find out if there's anything on 1, 2 also.
No.
Too late.
Okay, so you can't.
All right. All those we got a motion second on 8.3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We'll move to 8.4. Adoption of resolution number 2021-22, reduction of classified service. Mr. Auld.
President Rockwell, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, community and staff. Each year, the Transportation Department staff performs a review of school bus routes and staffing needed for efficiency and streamlining purposes as routes continuously change due to the number of students and/or their needs. The proposed reduction is a result of a resignation to the 7.5-hour transportation monitor position. It was determined that there was no longer the need for one 7.5-hour position. Instead, there are 2 separate positions at 3.75 and a 3.25-hour transportation monitor. The result is the elimination of the 7.5-hour transportation monitor position. California Education Code sections 45101, 45114, 45117, and 45308 authorize the school district to lay off classified employees due to lack of work and/or lack of funds upon 45 days prior notice. Resolution number 20, calling for a reduction in classified services for the 21-22 school year is presented for adoption due to lack of another van route. The reduction will become effective April 3rd, 2022. Financial implications, the district estimates that it may be able to save as much as $50,317.51 with the reduction as this position was entitled to health and welfare benefits. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 20, reducing the classified service effective April 3rd, 2022 as presented.
Please recommend an action.
Second.
Motion second. Questions or comments about the resolution?
Any public comment?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Item 8.5, authorization for a new management position, assistant principal on special assignment, a POSA. Mr. Paul.
Many districts have employed teacher on special assignment, TOSAs, for decades. Generally, a TOSA serves as a mentor or coach for instructional staff. Because the TOSA is not the teacher of record of any classroom or at any specific school site, he or she has the flexibility to provide services throughout the district. Similar to a TOSA, a POSA is a management position that is not assigned to the specific site and therefore can be used throughout the district to serve in various management roles. In the current educational climate, APOSA positions have become increasingly utilized in many districts. The vision for our district's APOSA position is as follows. The APOSA could assist at all sites in the areas of student intervention, disciplinarian, mentor, special education advisor, and or safety coordinator. Depending on specific needs, cabinet members can direct the APOSA's work throughout his or her contracted days. The financial implications. The district will determine the need for an APOSA on an annual basis based on unique conditions and staffing circumstances. When an APOSA is required, the cost will depend on the candidate's assignment on the management salary schedule. As such, the cost will not likely exceed $115,000. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the new management position, assistant principal on special assignment as presented.
Recommend action.
Second. On a motion second, any questions or comments?
I'd just like to make a comment. I think based on the particularly challenging times we're in and the difference we have in the way we're being funded currently, I think it's absolutely appropriate that we have this kind of position that's evaluated annually. That way we can base it on the need and the funding available. Generally, we have that kind of flexibility, that kind of opportunity, but I think it surely makes perfect sense with both the challenging times we're in and the kind of appropriations we're getting.
I'd like to add to that in terms of capacity for the administrators to support the teachers, I think a position like this could help us be able to increase our capacity by giving opportunity for people to move into management, not necessarily be at a site and get experience at all of our sites and all of our levels, and that could have some long-lasting benefits, I think.
Question. So I understand that there's flexibility. We make the determination on an annual basis, but is the expectation that this will look like a one increase to the administrative staff in general, or are there other possibilities?
So to Mr. Burris's point, so the first answer is for the general fund, the ongoing general fund, the district's position is not to add a position ongoing, and we don't believe that'll be the case anytime soon. However, based on one-time funding revenue sources, we could potentially flex. We could have an additional member for a year based upon, what's now categorical funding that would address a specific need. But with management, of course, we always have the flexibility, for how that looks. Okay, I hope that answered the question.
And my question would this would be such a certificated person that moves into management, correct, on this new management pay scale. And if a post goes away, do they go back to the certificated rate they were at before?
So you mean back to certificate like non-management?
Right.
We would have to follow all of the statutory notification timelines, like the March 15 timeline. But yes, if somebody went back from non-management into their certificated position, they would be paid according to either the data or the DAGA salary schedule appropriately.
That's what I assumed, but it's it's a big raise for somebody to go back. Then it's a big.
Remembering that they have to have the right credential, you have to have the administrative credential.
Right. It is a good training ground for a follow-on principal too. You can test drive.
Mm-hmm. I would just add that we're in a position of, coincidentally, attendance is a big issue, enrollment throughout the state. We're fortunate here that our attendance has been pretty consistent, and we're looking at a couple of elementary schools that are getting fairly large. You might recall Burroughs at one time had a dean of students, and so this would allow us to put somebody in a position for a period of time and be able to flex them somewhere else as needed. And then, of course, they would get a ton of great experience. So
I have another question. You know, principals, they're supervised by the superintendent, assistant principals are supervised by their principal. To whom will this person report and be evaluated by?
well,
That's something we got to figure out.
right. Well, we originally just felt it would be someone in cabinet, probably me, that would be responsible for that. Although we could determine that, you know, if somebody is spending the majority of their time in one location, we would obviously want to work with the site principal on mentoring and evaluating that person.
Questions or comments in the room?
Any public comment, 815? Public comment?
We do.
Here's that place to be.
Kathy McCoy, 812 East California Avenue. My comment on this is I think that's a great idea, but what would be even better is having an assistant principal at every elementary school, because we are having so many issues and principals cannot do their job plus get to all of those issues. They can't even do their job. They're busy trying to get to all of those issues. We have issues stemming from recesses that don't even get taken care of until the next day, because there is not an ability for the one principal who's there to be able to handle that. We have had times when we've had to have administrators called over from other schools because there are so many fires that need to be put out. And so I think that this is a great idea, but I think something that would serve all of us even better, increase productivity in our classrooms, because teachers aren't trying to manage the situations, would be having an assistant principal at each school. So the principal can do their job, and this person would be able to take care of all of those types of issues, because that's really what we need. And if you ask teachers, I know that they would agree with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments on the call?
Yes.
Idea.
Well, I think that would be
We are authorizing a new management position. We're not necessarily authorizing a single one. If we had the resources, we could do more than one.
It's always a budget analysis.
That's what I meant by resources.
You know, when management analyzes the budget, we look at how, you know, we can sustainably put everything, you know, I'm trying to think of the short answer. The short answer is we don't have additional ongoing revenue at this point. We actually have a structural deficit. But I do want to validate Ms. McCoy's comments that is in no small part of the consideration in creating the state posted position. And just as a matter of practicality, it really was getting some help at some of our elementary sites that really was one of the more prominent features of inspiring this position. So obviously appreciate her feedback there. All things being equal, if there was endless supplies of money, we'd love to put an assistant principal at every elementary school site. We really have to look closely at how that would work for the ongoing budget.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. But 8.6, revised job description for food service teller.
When job openings occur in the district, there are occasions when management will review a job description to see if revisions are necessary, especially if there is new certification requirements or new technology changes. The food service teller job description was first adopted in 1993. The Child Nutrition Services Supervisor has reviewed the current job description for the food service teller position and found areas that were antiquated and needed to be removed and or replaced with current terminology and functions of the position. There were no financial impacts or implications. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the revisions to the job description for the food service teller position as presented.
Recommend action.
Second.
A motion second. Any questions or comments for board or staff?
Any public comment on 8.7? You guys talking about when you go soon. You can do the 10 goes in.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Move to general administration, 9.1, gifts to the district. Mr. Johnson.
The following gifts were received. Jim Fowler donated a microscope with estimated cash value of $900 be used by Burroughs High School, and Curtis Thompson donated 6 filing cabinets, various office supplies with estimated cash value of $1,500 be used throughout the district. Following donations provides support to the district and have a positive impact. I recommend accept the gifts and as described and send appropriate letters of appreciation.
Second.
All those in
No.
with motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move to 9.2, California School Boards Association CSPA Delegate Assembly Election.
That's me, Mr. Rockwell. All right, the CSPA Delegate Assembly is the primary policy-making body of the California School Boards Association. It sets the general policy direction for the association that represents California school districts and county offices of education. Delegates fulfill a critical governance role by communicating the interests of local boards to CSBA's board of directors, executive committee, and staff. Delegates give policy and legislative direction through the adoption of the policy platform every 2 years and the adoption of the other policy statements of the association. They also speak on issues and provide direct advocacy on behalf of the association. Delegates play an important communication and support role within their regions. They also elect the association's officers and board of directors. Elections are conducted annually to fill vacancies on the CSBA Delegate Assembly. Elections are conducted by region. Sierra Sands is in a part of Subregion 12B. Currently, Sierra Sands Board Member Tim Johnson serves on the Delegate Assembly, and Board Member Bill Ferris is it Board President?
Yeah,
Is that referring?
that was referring to my previous position.
Yes, I thought. Okay, so Board Member Bill Ferris serves as CSBA Regional Director, Region 12. There are 2 vacancies in Subregion 12B of the CSBA Delegate Assembly for which there is 1 candidate. Candidate is Pamela Jacobson from Standard School District. Since there were not enough nominations received, the board may vote to write in the name of a candidate to fill the 2nd seat. A brief biological sketch from the candidate is included for review. And so the board may vote for up to 2 candidates. No more than 1 vote can be cast for any 1 candidate.
I move we vote for Pam Jacobson.
Second.
Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Yeah, I thought about saying, I'd really like to be involved in the process, but I think we're probably overrepresented, or at least maybe not overrepresented, but
We might have a little blowback.
optimally represented at this time.
I think this bylaws that we can't anyways, right?
Yeah,
I think if you CSB bylaws, we can't have it. You don't have one for.
it should be.
Well, actually, could be on the same cycle.
Oh, that's true. Different cycle. So I guess we could.
But no. I think your motion as it stands is good by me. Any other?
Even longer.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public?
Any public comment on 9.2?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Item 9.3 is approval of school safety plans for 2021-22. That would be Mr. Earl.
Every school in the district has a comprehensive school safety plan developed in accordance with education code requirements, and it follows the guidelines set forth in the state emergency management system and the national incident management system, as well as recommendations of Safe Schools, a planning guide for action prepared jointly by the California Department of Education and the Office of the Attorney General. In accordance with BPAR 450 and the Education Code, each school has reviewed and as needed revised and updated their school safety plans. Plans were reviewed by staff, school site councils, and site safety committees and first responders. The revisions were approved accordingly at the site level. The school safety plans meet the requirements of Education Code and BPAR 450. They are being submitted to the Board of Education for approval. These are lengthy documents and as such are available for review in the Human Resources Office or individually at the school site prior to the February 17th meeting. There are no financial implications, and it's the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the 21-22 school safety plans as presented.
Any questions or comments from the board or staff?
Any public comment on 8.3 school safety policy?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We have no construction discussions tonight, so we'll move to business administration. Item 1, adoption of resolution number 19-2122, authorization for temporary borrowing between funds pending receipt of Office of Public School Construction Facility hardship funding for the replacement of Richmond Elementary School.
Good evening, President
Mrs. Spinelli.
Buckwell, member of the board, Superintendent Ostab. So on January 10th, the district received an invitation to apply for a grant for a replacement Richmond Elementary School for the Department of Defense Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation. In order to submit that grant, the district needs to demonstrate that it has the financial means to meet a 20% grant match. The district has actually already started the application process for facility hardship funding from the state allocation to the Office of Public School Construction to partially fund the match requirement. Because the OPSC funding will not be available until after the grant application is submitted, DoD OLDCC requires this resolution to demonstrate that the district will borrow from the general fund pending receipt of the OPSC funding. This resolution also demonstrates that if the OPSC funding is not received by the district, that the district is able to meet the match requirements from the general fund. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board adopt resolution number 19-2122, authorization for temporary borrowing between funds pending receipt of the Office of Public School Construction facility hardship funding for the replacement of Richmond Elementary School as specific.
Recommend action.
Second.
We've got a motion second. Questions or comments from the board? I have one, and it may just be slow tonight. So this resolution also demonstrates that if the OPSC funding is not received by the district, that the district is able to meet the match requirements from the general fund.
Right.
If the OPSC funding is
Not
received, does that mean we're not doing the project?
No, so we have a certain match requirement, and right now, according to the application that we submitted with OPSC, we would hope to get $8 million in facility hardship funding, which would be applied toward our match. However, right now, sitting in our funds, in our available fund balances, we do have the funds available to cover the entire match, but we would rather not use that funding. But if we allocate that funding without borrowing it, then when the OPSC funding comes back in, we cannot apply it for the match.
Yeah,
And
so my confusion is that with all the names of the organizations changing, I was thinking that OPSC was the DoD organization we're getting the funding from. And if we weren't getting the funding, then why would we need to match it? But I'm good.
And the facility hardship funding bumps to the top of the OPSC bond funds, and there are still funds available in that, whereas of course modernization and new construction are depleted. So hopefully that funding would be available for us and we would get it, but you just never know.
And then just for my benefit, if not others, and I think you made it clear, but I do believe there's a strategic element to this as far as maintaining eligibility to be able to apply for that funding, get that $8 million from OPSC, which is the strategy of lending. If you don't employ that strategy, you could be inadvertently taking us out of the line of that OPSC money. So then you're using all that money that we have, and you will definitely not get any reimbursement. So am I?
So it's twofold. We need to guarantee, that we need the OPSC funding in order to qualify for it, and we need to make sure DoD realizes that although we won't have that funding in hand at the moment that we do the grant application, when and if we get it, we would apply it towards that match.
Which would be additive to our ability to then do, other needed projects in the district. Any other questions from the board or staff?
Any public comment on 11.1? We have a motion and a second for 11.1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. 11.2. Approval to enter into an agreement with Action Sales Food Service Equipment and Supplies for a walk-in freezer.
On September 23rd, Governor Gavin Newsom signed Assembly Bill 167, Education Finance Education Omnibus Trailer Bill into law. This law appropriated $150 million from the State of California's General Fund to the CDE to fund kitchen infrastructure upgrades and food service staff training, referred to as the KIT grant. In June of 21, the Consolidated Appropriation Act authorized the U.S. Department of Agriculture to allocate California approximately $3.62 million to competitively award eligible school food authorities an equipment assistance grant. This grant funding is designed to help schools serve healthier meals, provide meal service during disaster, pandemics, or natural disasters, improve food safety, and help support the establishment, maintenance, or expansion of the school breakfast program. Our Child Nutrition Services Department has been using a shipping container converted with refrigeration to serve as cold storage at the warehouse. This unit has failed several times and is no longer reliable. The district applied for and received grant funding from the KIT and the NSLPEHE for a new walk-in freezer. Per CDE guidelines, the district received 3 quotes for the freezer. Action Sales Food Service Equipment and Supplies has been selected as the lowest quote, meeting the district requirements. The cost of the walk-in freezer with installation is $68,441.36, and funding will come from KIT and NSLPEHE funds. It is recommended that the board approve the agreement with Action Sales Food Service Equipment and Supplies for a walk-in freezer as recommended.
Recommend action.
Second. Any questions or comments? The only thing I'll say is that another example of, great staff keeping their eye on opportunities and finding a way to OPM other people's money to make things better around here. So it's a great ad. So whoever's keeping the eye on this ball, thank you.
Likely to reduce energy costs as well.
Need a C-van.
A C-van with a HVAC and a duct. That's exactly what it is.
Public comment 11.2. Have a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We will temporarily adjourn the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education meeting and call to order the pulling up my agenda. Oh, what it's called. I want to get it all in front of me first. Okay. Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Indian Current Schools Financing Authority. Item 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes. Sorry.
We're all allowed. Thanks for not making me look the worst. Nothing, you look the worst. You help me not look at it. So, enough. Or item 2, approval of minutes of the regular meeting of January 20th, 2022. Any changes? Looks like those will stand. We will now adjourn the Senior Current Schools Financing Authority meeting and re-enter the Sierra Sands Board of Education meeting. We will move to special concurrent item 2.1, which is classified personnel.
You recommend?
Got a motion and a second on 2.1. Any questions or comments from the staff? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's see, item 3.1.
Move the consent calendar. On the special.
On the special.
Yeah.
On the concurrent. Do we have a second?
Yeah, sure. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. We will move to item 13, the regular consent calendar.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You got it? Other people up?
Yeah, before we do the adjourn, I'd make sure we open it for public comment.
Well, I
We
thought-
also have one risk.
Yeah. So my thought was, in case any of these bring up anything that we might want to have as a future agenda item, does it make sense to
It does.
to reopen the public comment now and do the future agenda after? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So I'll now reopen the public comment section. Same rules apply. 3 minutes, name and phone number, name and phone address.
Be seen and heard on TV.
Hi. If I could see.
Don't pull it up that high.
Yeah, I try not to. My name is Don Musser. Live in Ridgecrest, 1007 North Sierra View. I am also the president of the Greater Ridgecrest Republican Assembly. I started coming to these meetings about 6 months ago, as you guys know. And I sit out there and report back to the group what happens. I came to learn. I did not come to fight or argue with the board. This mask mandate got in the way. I was contacted to find out my opinion on items, which I shared, and I was asked to bring those to the board. I had probably a full page to say, which would have taken well over 3 minutes, I know. And when I saw parents and kids getting up to speak, I was not about to get in front of them. They said most of the same things I was going to say, much more eloquently than I would have, more powerful with emotion, which I did not have. But I've seen that for well over a year, and with parents around town and outside of this area as well. It is a big issue. It's one that we need to deal with. This mask in this setting is a minor inconvenience. I was asked why I did not speak and at the other meetings. And I said, my understanding from others that have spoken is that the board listens, they don't respond, and they don't react to it, and they don't change the policy. And so I decided my action probably got your attention more than if I actually spoke and said something. That's the reason we've been that way for the last 6 months. So the bigger issue for me, and this is not the big issue, is what the kids were talking about, the wearing of the masks of the kids, especially the younger kids. You heard the parents talking about it. It is a huge issue. It's one we need to deal with, seriously. The next issue is going to be even bigger, and that is the quote-unquote vaccine injection for kids.
I have heard plenty of parents say that will not happen with their kid. It's an issue that's bigger than the masks. So you guys should get on top of that and get an answer for the people. And I will leave you with this one last comment. I would like to know, are you going to answer them? A lot of parents and kids had comments. Will the board respond to them? And if the answer to that is yes, when will that be? I don't want to leave it open. I would like to see us get an answer that says, here's what's going to happen, or here's what can happen. Here's who is forcing us to do this. As far as the public knows, this is your policy. It's not been given up to anyone else. It's a real shame that our federal and state governments and mainstream media and big tech and everybody has politicized medicine. We all used to trust doctors and we used to trust them, and now no one does. And they've driven us apart, and it's not good. So I would like to know if you're going to answer that or not, and if so, when. Now, if you can't give me an answer now, Dave can get in touch with me. I'll leave him my information, and I can share it with plenty of people. But I think they deserve an answer. You had brave kids.
I was going to say the preamble to our public session refers to the fact that staff will be directed in the future, if appropriate, to answer any questions. So that is the process according to the presentation that's made at the beginning of every public comment.
Okay, so we'll know next month.
The board can direct staff to answer any specific questions. That's the way the process works for the public comment. And it doesn't have a specific timeline.
It doesn't have to be a month from now. It could be.
It doesn't have to be at a board meeting.
Okay. I hope it's not. I hope we can get an answer quickly because these kids do need it.
Right.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Can you have a free right there? That way you're going to be seeing her.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Aaron Lehman. I live in Richmond here. I came here tonight and I did not anticipate speaking with you, but I came in and I grabbed an agenda. And at the top of the agenda, there's this mission statement. And I'll read it since folks at home may not have access to this. It says, we, the board, or the members of the Board of Education of the SSUSD are committed to providing the highest quality education in a safe environment to all K-12 students. We believe the school shares with the family, church, and community the responsibility for developing lifelong learners who are responsible, productive citizens. I think that's a beautiful statement. I think everybody should agree with that statement. And I'll highlight that we claim to be committed to providing the highest quality education in a safe environment. Forcing teachers and kids to wear masks detracts from the highest quality education. Masks interfere with communication and with social interaction. Studies have shown that communication is 7% verbal, what you say, 38% vocal, how you say it, and 55% visual. And facial expressions are a huge part of your communication. So I think that requiring students and teachers to wear masks is really against providing highest quality education. I think that the mask mandate is nothing more than safety theater. We all know, we're smart folks in here. We know that this cloth is not going to stop an airborne virus. It's masks like this that satisfy the requirement do little, if anything, to protect against something that small. But what's not theater is the emotion and the sentiments brought in tonight by parents and students. It's heartbreaking to see. That's not theater, that's real. And this mask mandate, it's safety theater. I think we all know that. Continuing to enforce this mandate, it makes it clear that the Board of Education is not interested in living up to its mission statement. So I want you to consider that. Now, I recognize that you're in a difficult lose-lose situation here. If you abide by the mandate, you're going to have an angry group of people. And if you disregard the mandate, you're going to have a different angry group of people. But I always find that when you come to a decision point that's going to make some people unhappy, not make everybody happy, you should always default to freedom. And mandates are not freedom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good late evening. My name is Erin Denny, and I live at 1621 Sim Street. I am the 7th grade history teacher at Monroe Middle School, and I wanted to share the opinion that has not been the majority opinion this evening. I appreciate our adherence and rigidity to the mask mandates. I appreciate the adherence and rigidity to rules of public discussion and forums. I think that productive conversation can only happen when everybody is in agreement of the rules that have been set, and that we do so politely and logically and rationally. And so I simply wanted to thank you for the time that you've given us this evening, for the infinite patience you've provided. Many people have made many statements this evening, many of which, frankly, I don't think were based in fact, regarding the efficacy of masks, CDC guidelines, everything else around that hot button topic. So simply thank you for that, and thank you for your adherence to those policies. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think we have one last written comment that's in there earlier from Claire Tomlin, 731 Randall. Public comment is children vaccinated by fall. Governor Newsom announced today that he would require children to be vaccinated by next fall of 2023. Will you support that? Will you support that?
Will you?
Yes. And that was the last written comment we had. Or the only public comment. So the other one we had was actually ended up being read.
Yes.
Read it, yeah. We'll make sure we got them all. Then we'll move to item 14, future agenda. Thoughts? Go ahead.
I was going to say, there was a request for feedback, and we have a delineation in our preface to our public comment that, when appropriate, staff will be directed to provide information. So I'm trying to think through that. We never specifically made that assignment before, but I would think this consensus, we need to identify Dr. Ostash should provide, and for the most part, I think what needs to be understood is an understanding of what public comment is and is for. Because if it actually speaks to that, then I think people don't understand.
Yeah, I think we've actually, talked about this before as potentially a future agenda item, is almost presenting a primer of how the process works. Because, I think that there are a lot of misconceptions, right? Somebody sends an email out to the board and they don't get pages of responses from all the board members. And that's because that's not appropriate. But they don't understand that. And so, to me, it's sort of a, whether it's at an agenda item at a board meeting, or if there's some other mechanism for doing it. I like the board meeting idea, because that's a very public, and we record it, and it's on YouTube and all that. Sort of a primer on the way the process works, so that people don't. That's what I hate when I hear people say you don't listen to us, or when they say you don't respond to us, or those things. I hate hearing that, because it's patently not true, right? We listen with all of our hearts and our heads to every comment that's made. Some of them are easier to process because they're well thought out and fact-based and clear, they're not, insults and, other things that don't really help with the conversation. But, we do listen, and we do go to staff and say, hey, you need to go address this or address that. But because those things are not on the agenda, legally, we are not allowed to take action on them in those meetings. So when people ask us questions about what we think or what we do, there's not much we can say because of the way the law tells us we are supposed to operate our business. And so I agree. I guess I'm long-winded answer, but
It needs to be an agenda item.
100% agreement. Well, it needs to be an agenda item, but I think what we need to discuss and kind of come to a conclusion on is what does that agenda item need to be?
I think it's more of a presentation on an agenda item on communication to and with the board, public comment and what that means to the public and to the board and that sort of thing, and how to get information to the district using the proper chain of command through the teacher and the principal and the superintendent, and then the board is essentially your last resort. So I think those are things that the general public, somebody came on the board, I had no idea how that process worked. If I just, if you come to the board and yell at us, everybody works for the board, which is not true, and you do something about it. So I think that's probably a thing we need to have is a conversation or presentation of what it means. And we can probably get in the MIG training, and there's probably pages out there that will actually, guide that conversation or guide their presentation.
So what are we saying?
I think with future generation should be a presentation on communication to and with the board and with the district.
The purpose and the function of public comment.
Yes.
Although I hear Tim saying that it's larger than just that, the idea of it.
Right.
She's talking about chain of command and things like that. So,
or just chain of communication. It's not chain of command, chain of communication, because you want to solve your problems at the lowest level, and a lot of people when they get upset and emotional about things, you always want to go to the top, and typically you do that, you disrupted the whole infrastructure of the organization if you don't let the lower management work on their employees or whoever's causing you the issue to know where the problem is. If leadership's coming all the time and doing stuff, you don't have the same. You're not growing good leaders for one thing because somebody else is leading for them.
I hear you saying that something along the lines of a presentation on how to interact with schools.
Correct.
Yeah, sort of a district communication discussion. Yeah, that's kind of what I was.
Right. Appropriate ways to interact with the school district.
Right.
When there's something important to you.
Right.
And one of those things is public comment. So that's one of those things that we would address. But it's, communication to the district happens many different ways. A lot of that is directly with a teacher, or a principal, or, superintendent, outside of these meetings. But then there's also an important part that happens inside these meetings.
Right.
I think it would be helpful to cover all that.
The meeting itself,
Yeah.
Because we could blow this way on out to where it talks about all that type of communication and we get lost. I think to me this is a specific type of communication, that we should really just stick to that.
I think it could be fairly simple because public comment is really very narrowly focused. It's not a dialogue. It is a time for input for the board for things to consider.
That's public comment and public conversation.
That's really what it's about, and people do misunderstand that.
Right.
And clarifying that. We actually say it in our preamble, but it's like any routine. It is often not really understood. So.
Yeah, and there's, I was just thinking that this morning, right before, or this evening, right before we came in here, there are people out there that are saying things and asking questions, and it's very uncomfortable to not respond. Mm-hmm. But responding is inappropriate at that point in time. So it's not meant to be rude. It's meant to be, ensuring that we have a process and we have decorum and that we're running the business of the board and the district in in the correct manner. And so,
time to listen.
Yeah. Right. So
future agenda item is to have a presentation on public comment. Who is the appropriate person to do said presentation?
My thought was that maybe I and Dr. Ostash maybe get together and kind of talk through
and I think there are resources available through CSP that will give you really good verbiage.
Right. So we can start there, and then
make sure we don't violate any Brown Act, we can get kind of input from others who might have a say in what education and what would be appropriate or something like that.
I think I like it. I think it's in line with what we saw at our conference back in December, and it reminds me of when I was in a different role for the school, and people would want to interact, and they didn't always necessarily know how. There was something that guided them. It's rare when you get somebody in public comment who understands what his purpose is and how to actually, not asking for answers right now. You're asking for an agenda item, so it could be later on and that kind of thing. I think that could be a real powerful presentation, and I appreciate you volunteering with Dr. Ostash to put that together.
Sure, Dr. Ostash is appreciating my volunteering too. I actually, of course, don't mind doing any of that. I wonder if what the requests that are being made, if we may not, I wonder if the requests that are being made are really more specific to, why is the board or the district not willing to change its stance on the mask policy? I believe if I'm understanding the pleas and the genuine concerns by community members who have effectively expressed their concern, I don't really actually think they're asking what our procedures are for public comment. I think they're asking the board to sort of lay it on the line if they believe anything other than supporting the legal. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is perhaps a more effective approach would be for district staff to provide an agenda item, the specific governing authority and the law and what's derived from law and some of the background from district responsibility with its coverage for liability and the financial and liability risks that districts expose themselves to. And one of the things is that there are, out of 1,000 school districts in the state of California, there are a handful, there are some individuals who throughout the entire pandemic have made different claims at different times. And the media picks that up because it's a really sensational story. And it's really interesting when that happens, actually. But what the media generally does not pick up is when in every case that I'm aware of, although I welcome anyone to share information I don't know, because I don't know all of the district's business, all the 1,000 different school districts' business. But my observation has been that in almost every case, or every case I'm aware of, when some sort of outlier resolution is passed or a declaration is made, it's always been walked back. Districts have walked it back because they, wake up the next morning and they realize, like in the case of Roseville, I was talking with some colleagues who work up there, and not in Roseville specifically, but that their insurance carrier has indicated, that they're dropping them or they've been dropped. So now a school district then is exposed to liability of the order of magnitude of millions of dollars for either an individual lawsuit or multitudes of lawsuits or a class action lawsuit, not even necessarily from stakeholders in that district's area. They come from an outside area. So, I don't know what will happen in Roseville. I do know that their insurance carrier is dropping them, so I don't know in the coming 24-hour chunks if we'll hear a news or if you'll have to search a news item to see what Roseville actually does to walk it back. That I don't know, but I know previously a lot of districts have made declarations and walked them back within 36, 72 hours, whatever. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I do believe people are genuinely asking, this evening for the board and or the district to lay it down and say, are you with the masking mandate or are you not? I don't think they're actually asking about how public comment is procedurally.
Well, I appreciate that, but I disagree.
Okay.
I believe I heard both.
Okay.
And I believe it was clear that by several of the comments tonight and by Mr. Musser's comment, they do not understand that it is not a dialogue, that it is a time for them to share information with us. And I think if that needs to be made clear so people can understand, that would be a fairly simple thing.
Yeah.
I agree that also there is implied that they would like to know what we're doing with what they've
Right.
given us. But I do think that having an understanding of what the process is when they come and share could help them, because right now, as is often the case, they go away puzzled. How come they didn't answer my question?
Gotcha.
And we actually do say that we're not going to. But like I say, it gets lost in the shuffle, and that's okay. It's all about the teaching business, and you don't just say it once when you're teaching it. So,
It seems to me that there are two
Yeah,
things.
exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
One, we've come about on our own organically that we would like to help our meetings proceed in a fashion that accomplishes more positive outcomes.
and so people walk away scratching their
And
head.
by doing a presentation, having a presentation in that way that educates the public on how better to interact with us is very positive. But there's also the second one that I heard and that I've been thinking about. I mean, February 28th is, we're gonna learn something. We don't know what we're going to learn. You mentioned that earlier, and so did some of the others. And it could be appropriate for us to have an agenda item similar to the one that we had earlier this year. It was one of our first meetings. We had to come back in here. We actually had agendized this particular topic so that we could discuss it and not just have to listen to it. So it might be timely to put a similar item on our agenda for the March meeting, even, so we can have a presentation about the kind of things Dr. Ostash is talking about, and also be able to interact with the new information that's coming from the state. We don't know what that is. So that could be proactive on our part to have that as an agenda item for the March meeting, and it also shows a certain amount of hearing, and we're not trying to hide. It's not that we don't want to talk about it. It's we need to do it in an appropriate manner, and that's by putting it on an agenda. So I would like to put that forward as an agenda item that I don't know the wording. I need help with that, guys, but in some fashion that we put it back like we did earlier this year, be able to discuss it.
I'm happy to do both. I'm hearing.
I think there's a need for both.
So we can work together on an agenda item for an overview of the process for community feedback. I think is that, or the overview of how.
But would we do an agenda item or just have it on the superintendent's report? Because I think when you're up there talking, I think people are paying attention to what you're saying. You know what I'm saying?
I can do that.
I mean, because when we
It really shouldn't be a big deal.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I can do that, and then an agenda item on an update on the mass.
The mass,
That's my idea.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, I think it's the way to do
Okay.
it. But the mass one doesn't need to be an agenda for updated mass guidance or something.
Yeah, update
Whatever.
Because it will be different between.
It's gonna be different between now and
It'll
then.
probably be different.
I think it's appropriate we get ahead.
Right.
Okay, so we'll have an agenda item, and then the consensus, an update on the mass guidance. And I will definitely, in my report, and I'll communicate with you, Ms. Rock, we'll make sure we put in all the elements related to hearing reports from the public and how that works with board interaction.
So if you're really going to, if we're really going to address the issues that were brought up tonight with some kind of clarification, I think it would be inappropriate not to include discussion points on the proposed vaccine requirement as well. Because most of them said that this is the bigger issue.
So
And I think
mass guidance and
I think it is clear to me that people need to understand what's being required, and I think that will help a lot to understand what the reality of that requirement is, because there are elements that should put most people to rest.
well, and the nice thing is that we do it in March. If people are really wanting to get outraged, they can go to legislature and have the whole summer to work at the state level where these
Because there is legislation.
correct right there. It's in the works right now for this, and if we give them information, it gives people information they can go talk to their congressman
And participate in the process,
Right.
which is all, that's to me, that's what I was trying to share earlier. To me, there is a process, there are places to participate in the process, and there are places that are more effective if and when you do.
Right.
And that's helpful. That's the way we work. And
Right.
that's the way our country has become what it is.
I'm excited about this. I think this is great. This is good. Both of those topics. Okay. Good. Consensus. We get consensus all around. Agenda items, right? Here and that. Okay. Any other future agenda items? Righty. We will move to item 15, adjournment. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be March 10th, 2022.
When you say 10 years,
Huh?
when you say 10 years.
And I hope we get to do it out there one way or another. So 1098. Peace out.